Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now. We just got some breaking news into our newsroom regarding that deadly ambulance fire.
Yeah, if you remember, that happened about 3 weeks ago in the parking lot outside of Adventist Health Castle in Kailua. So a press conference just wrapped up with city first responders. Here's Honolulu Fire Chief Kalani Hau on what their preliminary investigation has found so far.
Based on the preliminary findings of this investigation, which include but are not limited to the physical examination of the incident scene, observed fire patterns, photographs, witness statements, and research, the fire is classified as accidental and originated at the portable oxygen regulator assembly. The exact and definitive cause of this fire cannot be determined within the scope of the Honolulu Fire Department.
The paramedic was using a CPAP device. This is a breathing device. CPAP stands for continuous positive airway pressure. And as an exemplar, as an example, this is the type we carry on the ambulance. This is what it looks like new, and this here is how it looks when it's carried in the ambulance in a bag there. This device was connected to oxygen supplied via the main oxygen tank carried on the ambulance and connected to the wall port. And this is the type of tubing that the CPAP device uses when we're connecting it to the wall port. As per our standard practice, as the ambulance approached the hospital, the oxygen feeding the CPAP device was disconnected from the wall port and transferred to the portable oxygen cylinder. And so that's where the connection is made, where Deputy Santee is showing there, where it's removed from the wall and connected to the portable oxygen cylinder. This is done to allow the patients to remain on oxygen as they are brought from the ambulance into the emergency room on the gurney. It is reported that at the time the paramedic connected the CPAP oxygen line to the portable oxygen cylinder, there was a sound described as a pop, followed by a bright flash of light with the back of the ambulance immediately filling with smoke and fire.
That's city officials giving us an update there. We also got an update on the condition of Jeff Wilkinson, the EMS paramedic that was in the vehicle at the time. It is said that he's still in the hospital and improving, which is good to hear.
Right. Dr. Ireland, who you just heard from there, he said the paramedic is out of the ICU. He's obviously talking, giving them information about what he remembers from that night. And Dr. Ireland described the medical device that's become the focus of the investigation now.
Yeah, and we are writing up all this information as we speak. Again, that press conference just wrapped up minutes ago. We brought it to you live on your H&N digital platforms, and that's exactly where we're publishing all these details right now. So head to your H&N digital platforms. We're going to have a story posted momentarily. Meanwhile, we've got to get to some other news that's still just coming into our newsroom.
That's right. U.S. health officials are on Capitol Hill today to discuss the nation's response to the monkeypox outbreak. Now, this comes just days after a California resident with a compromised immune system died from the virus. Dina Demetrius has more.
By every measure, the response from the Biden administration on monkeypox crisis has been a catastrophic failure.
Senators on both sides of the aisle held nothing back as they grilled public health officials during a Senate hearing about the spread of monkeypox in the U.S.
Too many missteps were made early on in the response, and a couple hundred cases turned into 21,000.
Monkeypox is now in all 50 states. The CDC says while the spread of the virus is slowing down, there are still pockets of the country where cases are on the rise.
We approach this news with cautious optimism, recognizing that we must continue to aggressively respond to with our entire toolkit, including vaccination, testing, and education about risk to inform behavior change.
The CDC says it's increased the amount of tests to 80,000 per week. And so far, more than 540,000 vaccines have been administered, with millions more available.
The U.S. response to monkeypox should, in turn, help to inform our response to the inevitable next emerging or re-emerging infectious disease of pandemic potential.
You repeated each of the mistakes of the early days of the COVID response and the cultural arrogance from public health officials who are supposed to be at the forefront of our response let this country down again.
The Senate hearing comes just days after the monkeypox virus claimed its first victim here in Los Angeles. The LA County Department of Public Health is not releasing any other information about the victim except to say that they had a severely weakened immune system. Dina Demetrius, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Now, there's a lot going on in the world of politics. For more on that, let's bring in Hawaii News Now's White House correspondent, John Decker. Now, John, a federal judge unsealed more of that affidavit connected to the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago. What did we learn today?
The newly unredacted filing indicates that the FBI and the Department of Justice subpoenaed information from the former president, namely surveillance video, internal closed caption video at Mar-a-Lago from that ground floor where all of those boxes of government records were kept. They wanted that material covering the period from January through June of this year. And indeed, the Trump team handed over a hard drive of that video back on July the 6th. So that's new information that we did not know before this new filing by the Department of Justice.
Now, John, you're also an attorney. Could this pose a legal problem for Mr. Trump?
Oh, potentially. I think that if you try to connect the dots, and again, this involves a lot of speculation, perhaps there's information contained in that hard drive that led the FBI and the DOJ to seek this search warrant, which was executed on August the 8th. But we don't know. Remember that 38-page affidavit attached to the search warrant application, more than half of it was redacted, and that gives us an indication there's a lot of information we still don't know about this investigation.
Now, switching it up, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, he's introducing new federal legislation that would essentially ban abortions nationwide after 15 weeks. What are the chances of this bill passing?
Very little chance as things stand right now. It's a divided Senate. It's 50-50. In order to move this legislation forward, you would need 60 votes, and you are not going to get anywhere near 60 votes. Even after the midterms, no one is forecasting a gain of 10 seats by Republicans in the U.S. Senate. In addition to that, the leader for Republicans in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, displeased with this move by his fellow Republican, Lindsey Graham. In fact, he said most of his caucus feels they're comfortable with the states deciding the issue of abortion rather than the federal government deciding the issue of abortion. So Senator Graham does not have an ally with the leader for Republicans in the Senate.
Yeah, that was an interesting move. Could it have an impact on the midterm elections coming up?
Well, Democrats believe that this move by Lindsey Graham is an unforced error by Republicans because it elevates the issue of abortion. Democrats believe this energizes their voters. In fact, we saw that earlier this summer when that abortion referendum vote was taken in the state of Kansas. And it also certainly is a fundraising tool for Democrats. And we know that fundraising is a big part of the midterm election. So Democrats actually are very pleased by this move by Senator Graham. And that goes against a position that he has held for many years. And that is that states, he said, ought to decide the issue of abortion, not the federal government.
All right, Hawaii News Now's White House correspondent, John Decker. Always appreciate the time, John.
Thanks a lot, Ashley.
The state of travel, airlines, airports, and safety were the topics of a CBS News town hall in Washington, D.C. this week. The head of the TSA, the pilots union, and some airline CEOs were there. Also, our own CBS News senior travel advisor, Peter Greenberg, was also in attendance. He joins us now from Washington with this update of what happened.
Well, of course, safety and numbers. The pilots want another barrier erected between the cockpit and the cabin. There's a bipartisan support for that, but now it has to be funded. The flight attendants, of course, are worried about just the numbers themselves and crew rest periods. The pilots are also arguing that the airlines for the last year and a half were publishing schedules they could not physically support. Obviously, this is topic A at the U.S. Department of Transportation, and maybe the basis of some new rulemaking from the DOT, considering holding the airlines accountable for publishing a schedule they can actually operate. Now, again, we're going into the fourth quarter, so that may not be a big a problem as it was this summer, but it's going to come back again if it's not dealt with in 2023.
Another big topic, staffing shortages, leading to cancellations and delays like we saw all summer long. Whether there's still a labor shortage, well, that really depends on who you ask. Here's what Greenberg had to say.
Well, that's a relative question. They've been successful in hiring some. That process is continuing. There are still shortages across the board, not just pilots, but the people who work below the wings, the people who work at the counters, the people who maintain the planes, and of course the other infrastructure, not just at airlines, but airports and other service businesses that support the airline travel experience. So there is some progress being made. They're hoping to make more. By the way, this also applies to the TSA and all sorts of other government agencies that support the airline business, including air traffic controllers and the FAA. So it's a work in progress. They're nowhere near where they need to be yet, but at the same time, the airlines are paring their schedules for the fourth quarter. American Airlines slashing 31,000 flights from its November schedule alone. That represents about 16% of its capacity. So hopefully they'll get to a more stable situation in the next 4 to 5 weeks. The real challenge, of course, is not the fourth quarter. The real challenge is when travel returns with a vengeance again in 2023.
Much of Britain came to a halt, pausing for the once-in-a-lifetime sight of Queen Elizabeth making her final journey from Buckingham Palace. Her coffin now lies in state at Westminster Hall in London, where mourners are lined up for miles to pay their respects. Danya Bacchus is there.
Queen Elizabeth II passed under the Great Arch of Buckingham Palace for the last time, a horse-drawn carriage bearing her coffin in a solemn procession. The coffin was topped with foliage from the royal residences, including lavender and pine, and the imperial crown encrusted with thousands of diamonds. Mourners, young and old, many emotional, lined the route to witness the centuries-old tradition and say goodbye to Britain's longest-serving monarch.
Been a rock that's always been there. You know, politicians change, wars have happened, but the Queen has always been there.
As the coffin arrived at Westminster Hall, Queen Consort Camilla was at the King's side, and his sons were joined by their wives Kate and Meghan, the family united in grief.
With thy servant Queen Elizabeth and all the faithful departed.
Then the doors to the 900-year-old hall opened to the public, many bowing their heads to the Queen. The Queen will lie in state here at Westminster Hall for 4 days. The line extends for miles. As many as 1 million people are expected to visit. Many were in line overnight for the opportunity and say it was worth the wait.
She was a beautiful inspiration and such a moving energy in there.
It was very hard to just see a coffin and not a queen, not our queen.
It's closure. Our queen is being laid to rest. She's at peace.
As world leaders make their way to London for Monday's funeral, mourners will visit around the clock. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, London.
Thanks, Danya. I want to take you live now to London, where the time is now 11:13. As we take a look at this live picture, you can see Big Ben over there on the right side. This is in front of the River Thames there. So Queen Elizabeth will forever be admired for her sense of duty, grace during that 70-year reign. But it really was her sense of style that was so far ahead of her time. Let's turn things over now to CBS's Holly Williams to continue our team coverage.
She was one of the most photographed women in the world, the iconic face of her country. Known for her religious sense of duty, her service, and her style.
She was such a recognisable figure of quintessential Britishness.
Katie O'Malley is an editor at UK's Elle magazine.
That she wore these bright colours, whether it be bright yellow or kind of a turquoise blue, so that someone at the back of a crowd, no matter where she was in the world, would be able to spot her and feel that she's had that one-on-one connection.
The Queen's signature look barely changed in decades. She loved big hats, sensible shoes and practical handbags. A uniform and a lesson in female power dressing later adopted by others.
I suppose what it projects is a sense of purpose. She was a working woman.
She was a working woman, and every single time that she went out into the public, she was there in her uniform to work.
For centuries, British monarchs have projected grandeur with their clothing, and at times Queen Elizabeth did the same. But she also had an off-duty style, a country girl at heart, according to those who knew her.
It's that self-confidence in her identity that I think I will always remember as her legacy in fashion.
Holly Williams, CBS News, London.
And we're going to have much more coverage of the Queen's passing in the days to come. We will be talking to a reporter in London for the rest of the week here at This Is Now. So stay tuned for that and keep checking your H&N digital platforms. Want to take you live outside right now, looking over the city. 84 degrees out there right now, heating up.
Yep.
What's it going to be like for the rest of your week? Here's Guy Hoggy.
With the winds shifting and with lighter winds coming in, we'll likely see some afternoon pop-up showers. You can see those showing up on Kauai, on Maui, and on Hawaii Island. That's tomorrow in the afternoon. Tomorrow morning should be fairly dry. That's going to be the trend. Drier in the overnight and morning hours. And then in the afternoon time, this is 4 o'clock Friday, we get those pop-up showers again. And then Saturday morning, fairly clear. And then we'll see more pop-up showers look like Sunday afternoon. But most of the rain expected to be light. However, there is a chance for some heavy downpours, although they won't be widespread. We could see heavy downpours when those winds turn variable Thursday, Friday, and to some extent Saturday. Some of that moisture will linger around on Sunday as well. So we'll be a little bit damp from time to time from tomorrow through Sunday. We're still expecting some leeward sunshine, especially early in the days.
Thank you, Guy Hoggy. All right, fans, listen up because this is some news for you. You can get your fill of UH sports all year long. The university's H-Pass is now for sale for a limited time, so it's for $144. Fans will get a ticket to all home school-sponsored basketball, volleyball, and baseball games this year. While it doesn't include some tournaments and postseason play, it's still a pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're looking to support our teams, right? Passes are only available till Sunday, or while supplies last. Head to etickethawaii.com for more information.
And I love the food at all our games, too.
Oh,
it's really good.
A sports ballpark, that kind of food, I'm there anytime you want to go.
Yeah. Good deal there. Catch it up. So President Biden, he visited the North American International Auto Show in Detroit today, and he's pushing his plans for a multi-million-dollar investment in electric vehicle chargers in 35 states. That's ahead of the midterm elections. Deborah Alfarone has more.
President Biden is revving up the push for his administration's accomplishments at the North American International Auto Show in Battleground, Michigan.
Jump in, give you a ride to Washington.
The president announced the approval of $900 million to build more electric vehicle, or EV, chargers, spanning 53,000 miles of the national highway system. That's just part of an overall budget set aside for 500,000 chargers across the country by the end of the decade.
Now we're choosing to build a better America. An America that's confronting the climate crisis with America's workers leading the way.
The president has made promoting electric vehicles a key part of his climate goals. But back here in Washington, House Republicans are bashing his administration's energy policies.
You're not plugging your car into a tree. You need some stable energy sources, and a lot of that would be fossil fuels, but they're against fossil fuels.
In a bid to retake control of Congress in November's midterms, Republicans are also hitting the president on crime, the economy, and high inflation. The latest CBS News Battleground Tracker shows the GOP with an advantage to win the House, though the Senate battle appears to be deadlocked.
The American people cannot afford another year of failed Democrat one-party rule in Washington.
President Biden indicated this week that he believes his party can keep control of the House. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
I'm certain the internet will be talking about what else comes out of the Detroit Auto Show. It's always a big newsmaker every year. But let's see what else cyberspace is up to today. Yep, from the feeds time. Here's a question for you. Which toys will make the National Toy Hall of Fame this year? Light Bright, Nerf toys, Pound Puppies are among dozens of finalists for 2022. Others are Bingo, that's not already there, Catan, a Pinata, and a top. Those are some classics, and if they're not there already, they need to be.
Yeah.
Even though I am so partial to my Pound Puppies. That was one of my favorite
I loved
toys.
Pound Puppies.
One of my favorite toys of all time. The Hall of Fame is at the National Toy Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. And it has an advisory committee that will select inductees. The public can also vote online through September 21st.
Those are some old school toys. How come they haven't made the list yet?
A top? A top is not a
the original toy.
On a Hall of Fame?
Remember those spirograph things?
Oh man, those are
were
awesome.
cool.
Hours of fun and good, clean, simple fun. No video games here, kids. Nope, just the top. Yep, and a Pound Puppy.
I'm rooting for the top this year.
Yes.
All right, well, The Crown may soon reign supreme on Netflix. It jumped into the top 10 this week. Viewership of season 1 of the streaming company's award-winning series about Queen Elizabeth II has skyrocketed since her passing. Now, the show's producers have paused production on the show's 6th season and final season as a sign of respect. I have not seen it yet, but you are a big fan, John.
Beyond. And Dylan Inchetta has been here helping me the last couple of days produce our show. He's been rewatching them and enjoying them. And I think a lot of people, as you just mentioned, have been doing the same. Another thing people are watching is right here on KHNL. We're talking about America's Got Talent, and it's winding down real fast. We got Jennifer Bjorklund with an update on what's ahead for tonight's finale.
So hard for America.
AGT's 11 finalists did all they could last night.
This baby got teeth already?
To make the job of choosing a champion tough. Including 14-year-old Sarah James from Warsaw, Poland.
Oh, the whole show today, everybody here did such an amazing job, and it was just so incredible.
James is one of 7 finalists from outside the United States. Each one hoping for $1 million.
I'm already happy that I got to do this, that the whole world saw this act.
They also saw dancers from Lebanon electrify the judges and the audience.
This is what a $1 million act looks like.
Or it could be the artificial intelligence team.
But I got wise. You're the devil in disguise.
That seemed to bring Elvis and Simon Cowell together.
Just to get to show the world Elvis and be there in the finals is a win for us.
And a kid who grew up wanting to be Elvis might get to be an AGT champion instead.
To win would just be absolutely the next level. So it would be very big to win.
America's pick is about to be revealed.
Jennifer Bjorklund there talking to us about America's Got Talent, which airs tonight on KHNL, 8 o'clock. You don't want to miss it.
So they win $1 million and a
Vegas residency.
Yeah, very
Good
cool.
gig, right?
Yeah.
Good gig. Time for one more story. And where do you see this?
All right, some cool video. Check out what happened on a fishing trip off the coast of Maine. So a fisherman hooks a mako shark, and the already surreal encounter turned wild when the fighting fish suddenly took flight and landed on the boat. Now, no one was hurt, and they quickly scrambled to restrain the shark. They took measurements, tagged it, and returned it to the sea.
Check this out. That shark
Yikes.
flies.
Ugh.
Whoa. Can you imagine? I could not deal with that. All right, guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this halfway through your work week. Ashley's back first at 4 on KHNL. As you just saw, so much news still developing here in our H&N newsroom, so you're going to want to stay up to date by checking your H&N digital platforms for all those new details. Again, Ashley back first at 4 on KHNL. And don't forget that America's Got Talent finale tonight, 8 o'clock, also on KHNL.